Hey everybody, my name is Justin Vandermark and I am a creative writing major from the University of California, Riverside. I'm starting a teaching class where I'm going to help people turn their ideas into either a short story, a book, a series, a kid's book, or a screenplay. The first class that I'm already teaching with my first group of people, I've already noticed that there's a few elements that people forget for storytelling. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what makes a story successful. And yes, I know there's a lot of different elements that help make the story successful, but I'm going to talk about one of the major ones, and that is called a story plot arc. So what is a story plot arc? There's five fundamental elements for a story plot arc. The first is exposition, which is pretty much the background story of the characters. Next is the rising action, which is the characters' conflicts they have to go through. The climax is the overcoming of those conflicts. After that, you get the falling action, which is pretty much you see the characters at their happiest. And then, last but not least, you have the resolution, which is the final goodbyes of the story. And the first part is exposition. So let's jump right into it. Exposition is the background information the reader or the audience needs. This is the setting, main characters, what the story's about, and the relationships between all the characters. The perfect example of this is Iron Man. So let's use Iron Man as an example. The exposition is the who, what, when, where. So we get to meet his best friend who's in the army, James Rhodes. After that, we meet his future villain, Obadiah Stane, who works with him as his partner, but Tony is nowhere to be seen. We finally get to meet the main character, Tony Stark, and we get to see that he's this rich billionaire that lives carefree, right? He wastes his money, doesn't care about his accomplishments, that award he just got. He's a genius playboy billionaire that gets anything and everything he wants. And then we finally get to meet Pepper Potts. We get to see that she's always with Tony. She's his right-hand woman, and you can see the desire and the passion between them. Finally, we get to meet Happy, who's his best friend and his driver. So we get to finally see how Tony is, and we see how he makes his money by selling weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. All this information is all the exposition. It builds up the main characters, it shows their desires. We see the relationships between those characters, and we get to see where he lives and how he lives day to day before the conflict begins. Then from there, it all leads to the rising action. What is rising action? Rising action creates the conflict, right? It's the conflict for the characters to overcome. This will draw your readers and audiences in. So you got to make sure it's a solid one. Since we used Iron Man in the last video, we're going to continue using that. So the rising action begins when Tony Stark must overcome the attack and the escape of the cave he's in by creating that Iron Man suit, right? After that, once he's already made the suit, he's come home and he's already rebuilding it, he goes back to the Middle East to fix the problem that he created with his weapons of mass destruction. Once he settles that score, the viewer gets to see an insight into Obadiah, who's Tony's partner, working with the terrorists and then betraying them to get his hands on Tony's original Iron Man suit. Then, of course, we get the passion between Pepper Potts and Tony Stark. Then we get to the sad part where Tony gets betrayed by a father figure, Obadiah. That's when he steals the arc reactor from his chest. But luckily, Tony is saved by his malfunctioning robot for some humor. And lastly, we get Pepper, Agent Coulson, and S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to stop Obadiah, but it's too late. Once you build all these obstacles for your character to overcome, and that will show the emotional change, the personality change of your character, that will lead right to the next part of the story plot arc, which is the climax. Climax is where the hero has to overcome the conflict that you've given him. This will lead to a new era or a new world, and this is where all the cool shots are made, right? All the action, explosions, and the best music. So let's continue with using the Iron Man as an example. The climax is where Tony Stark in his Iron Man suit swoops in and stands off against his ex-partner Obadiah Stane while he's in his Ironmonger suit. So we get this great action, right? Explosions, cars blowing up on the freeway. And then we get it when they're on top of the rooftop and glass is breaking. Tony starts getting beat up. And this part is where it leads to the climatic point. And the climatic point is where the hero gives it his all to defeat the villain at any cost. In Iron Man, it's where Tony Stark tells Pepper to blow up the giant arc reactor to stop Obadiah Stane, giving us the illusion that Tony will die as well. The climax also adds that the viewer gets to see the end of Obadiah and knows that the bad guy, the villain, has lost the battle. And then this will lead to the falling action. The main element for the falling action is where you show all the characters at the happiest. So let's continue using Iron Man as an example since we've been using it this far. The falling action is where Tony Stark is getting ready for his press conference, right? He's talking with Pepper Potts and Agent Coulson, and we get more information about Obadiah Stane and how the cover-up of his death is going. Then, after Agent Coulson gives Tony Stark those index cards with what he's supposed to read off, Tony starts joking about some things he wants to say differently, and then Agent Coulson just gives him this look of, no, just stick with the cards. So after that, we finally get to see Tony Stark begin his press conference by reading from the index cards from the script. And then this leads to the resolution of the film or of the story. What is the resolution? Okay, so the resolution is the last goodbyes of the film or the story. It's the final shots or final scenes of the hero or the characters. This is when, in a film or in the book, it's where they leave you off with a cliffhanger for the next film or next book. So let's do this one more time. We're going to be using Iron Man as the example. The resolution in Iron Man is when Tony Stark is giving his speech to the press at the press conference, right? And then he pauses, drops those index cards, and then tells them what everybody knew. I am Iron Man. And like I previously stated, it leaves the viewers wanting more. It has a cliffhanger of, oh my gosh, what's happening next with Tony Stark? They want to see what happens to the world around him. And that's the way the film ends in Iron Man. And that's also a way to end it in a story. And I'm just so glad you guys are here. Now, if you'd like me to go over everything that you just did, all those homework assignments, if you want me to help you turn this idea into a full story, just give me an email at jkcreativewriter@gmail.com and I'll be happy to go over it. I will be starting a class and I will be taking on 4 people per class for about 2-hour sessions. So if you are interested, just give me a quick email and I'll get right back to you as soon as I possibly can. Thank you again for watching this video. Stay tuned for next Wednesday for my next video, which is going to be a surprise, but it'll also help you to make a successful story. Thanks for watching, guys.